Well, it's second hour of today's program. I'm Bill Graff along with Nan Su and Amy Howe, and we have a very special guest for our second half hour. We are endeavoring to bring in well-known talk show hosts from around the country on our program to get their perspectives on what is happening in China and around the world, and how China is interacting with us and the other people in the world. And our inaugural nationally known talk show host to join us is a voice you have actually heard on this radio station and our sister station for quite a while. Doug Stephan, nationally syndicated radio host, has something in common with me. My family has been a long-time farmer. We're a farming family. And Doug Stephan, when he's not on the radio, is a farmer. And we want to welcome Doug. Doug, welcome to our program.
Happy to be here. This should be fun.
It should, indeed. We have both you and Amy on the same circuit coming into the radio station today, so I'll be writing herd on the volume, but we want to just ask you about how China affects farming. You're such an expert on this. I mean, you talk about this all the time on your own radio programs and your podcasts. This is really a bit of concern for folks around the world, isn't it?
Well, I think that the idea... there are many different aspects to this situation that we find ourselves in, and frankly, one overlaps the other. Yes, I am a farmer. I do an hour a week that's heard on a lot of, I was going to say, as if I were on the air on my program, on a lot of these same stations. I think the American Family Farmer is on one of the two stations that are there. I know the DJV program is on KMNY. The focus that we have, for the most part, outside of agriculture is, frankly, I'm dealing with it right this minute because I just got a phone call from my children who were planning to come east to my farm. You know, I live in California in the wintertime and have since 1993, but my farm is in Framingham, Massachusetts, outside of Boston, and both my son and daughter were going to bring their spouses and my grandson here for Christmas. And they have just told me in the last hour that they are not going to come because they don't trust the circumstances under which they could travel, what would happen under quarantine. I mean, there are all kinds of things. Massachusetts is up and down. California is a disaster zone as far as I can see.
Yeah, most of the state is purple now.
Yeah. I frankly resent, and that's probably as strong a word as I can use on the air, but I am thoroughly disgusted. And perhaps there are words that I'll think of between now and tomorrow when I go on the air that'll be more applicable to my feelings. But I resent the hell out of what the Chinese government has done with regard to this and other things that they're up to try to weaken us, to try to destroy what's not only going on here in our country but around the world. And part of that is our agriculture. Not only do we have to deal with the virus, but we have to deal now with this hornet, this monster bee, the killer bee, the wasp, whatever the heck it is that came over here from that neck of the woods. There are so many things that we need to be aware of. And, you know, resentment doesn't fix it. Looking in the rearview mirror doesn't fix it. But going forward, I hope that we, either in the broadcasting community, the community of man, the agriculture community, are going to deal in a forthright way with these people that are running that country that you folks are so connected to. But they've, as far as I'm concerned, they've taken a big chunk out of my life this year because of their actions, and I resent the hell out of it. So
I don't think that point. Doug, I don't think that point of view is lost on a lot of folks right now, considering that we all consider this virus we're dealing with coming from China affecting our lives like no other thing has in my lifetime. I'm looking at the poor restaurant community around the United States that one minute they're able to serve food, and the next minute, oh, no, you got to go outside. And now in California, many restaurants are back to serving food only as takeout.
Right. Well, you have such bad leadership. The mayors of the big cities, the governor, and it's not a political thing. They just are, they're incompetent. And that's a nice word for it. There's no leadership. There hasn't been good leadership, I don't think, nationally, regionally, or locally. And a lot of people then have not taken responsibility because they haven't taken it seriously. And thus we find ourselves in the situation where most of us have had to change our lives, and we'll probably still be under the effects of this through next spring. So we will have a year of our lives, and some people's lives will never be the same. The people who have, as you're suggesting, the restaurant industry is a perfect example of businesses that don't have deep pockets. If they're small mom and pop places, they have to be open in order to survive. And they can't be open under normal circumstances. As far as the agriculture is concerned, I know this year a lot of restaurants became more dependent on locally grown produce, and that was a good thing because, it's always better to get local if you can. But a lot of people's eyes were open. Remember back in March and early April, there was nothing on the shelves in the supermarkets, so people started scratching their head and thinking, all right, wait a minute, what am I going to do to get food? I can't get it in the supermarket. So they began rediscovering the local farms, the produce guys, the dairy guys, and so that has been a good shot in the arm for the business. That is part of what I think I'm reflective on. But the other part of China and its inveiglement in our lives, whether you know it or not, the Chinese government, whoever controls agriculture and industry, has bought and now controls the largest pork producer in the country, as a matter of fact, in the world.
Yeah, I did
Smithfield
know
Farms was bought. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that, and it scared the bejeebers out of me when I heard it the first time.
What you're doing is they've been fiddling, hauling American pork to China, bringing some of their stuff here. You can't be sure of the quality that comes from Smithfield anymore. I don't eat meat anyway, but for people that I know or people that listen to me on the radio, I tell them to stay away from that brand. They've also, the Chinese have bought into both the Purdue and Tyson chicken, not much in Tyson, but they're buying heavily into Purdue to obviously take control of that. How much of this do we allow? Why in the world the Chinese government is trying to buy into? We've just made, and I don't understand how Trump thought this was a good idea, or the FCC did, but they've okayed foreign partial ownership of our broadcast entities. I mean, what the hell what do you think the Chinese are going to do buying into into American broadcasting properties? They're going to be spreading their propaganda around. They can in a way now. There's a radio station that's south of San Diego in Tijuana that's been taken over by the Chinese, and so they're supposedly selling the time now, but it happens to be a very strong signal. And what do you think they're going to do with it? I mean, it's just this kind of stuff, and everybody seems to be asleep, or they don't care.
Not paying attention.
I don't get it, frankly. I just don't get it.
Well, that's why we are here to talk about China every week. Now, talking about China, you specifically talk about agriculture in this nation that's impacted by China now. Let me ask you this, Doc. What do you think in the last few years the tariffs that's imposed on the imports from China, did that actually help the farmers?
Depends on how you define help. I would say that because they have, the agricultural community, if that is the correct description in China, is pretty disjointed, as is most of China. Once you go west, once you go east, is it east? No, west. If you go west of the big cities, Shanghai, Beijing, and the cities that are, sort of close to the eastern side of China, it's no man's land. And what agriculture there is basically sustenance agriculture for the people who live on the farm. So in the areas where they have moderately fertile land, they don't really have strong, intelligent farming practices. They're trying to get more and more influence from the rest of the world. But they need, in order to survive, they need soybeans, they need corn, they need grain. And the largest supplier of all of that has been for years and years and years the United States. We've been the breadbasket of the world. But one of the other things that's happening, because of, in part, the virus and bad government policy that looks like it will continue unless we have some kind of wholesale revolution, I said 4 or 5 years ago that if we don't change our policies and tactics in terms of the small family farmer versus big ag, we will no longer, what we're doing under big ag is ruining our soil. So if we don't smarten up and change the way we're farming, in a few years, never mind we won't be the breadbasket of the world, we're not going to be able to feed ourselves. So then the Chinese control that situation. I'm not a big Trump fan, but he has done, I actually like many of the policies that he's instituted. And in direct answer to your question about the trade and the tariffs, I think the sort of shortening of the leash on the Chinese with the new trade agreements was something he did that was good. We actually need more of that. But I see some waffling there now, and the Europeans, not wanting to be without a trading partner, have made some deals, some agricultural deals and some other trade deals with the Chinese in the last month or so that don't negatively or positively affect the United States. It's just that we're not really controlling the situation.
You know, one of the things I've noticed, Doug, is the fact that when the Food and Drug Administration and the agricultural community, the heads of those departments in the United States come from very large companies.
Well, that's not just limited to a couple of the agencies. I think there are 15 cabinet positions, and if you look at a lot of the undersecretaries, a lot of the people that are in policy-making positions, most of those positions go to people who come from the industries that they regulate. I mean, the best example I can come up with, Sonny Perdue, who's the Ag Secretary right now,
exactly,
is a flat-footed, unintelligent, good old boy. I just saw something today where, as a matter of fact, this buyout that we had, $7 million of the I think there was $16 billion that went to farmers supposedly. $7 million alone went to a family in Detroit that created 25 or 26, I'm trying to find the story now, 25 or 26 fake farms. And they got one family got $7 million because they could. There's a loophole in the law. There's a lawyer in St. Louis who has been helping families like this set up phony farms, phony corporations, and drain, and the people in the federal government haven't done a damn thing about it. Purdue's buddies down in Georgia and in Florida have been reaping windfalls. Meanwhile, I got $11.67 in aid in the coronavirus package for agriculture.
Wow.
So when you look at $250,000 going to 8 members of a family in Palm Beach on Ocean Avenue, another $6 million, I think it was either $4 or $6 million, went to families on Park Avenue in New York that own a piece of a trust that owns a piece of an agricultural co-op that's run by one of the big ag concerns, agribusinesses. They're not farms, they're factories. And so we've been ripped off to a fare thee well by lack of leadership or people in these positions that come from, I mean, if you look at the top 3 or 4 positions of the Ag Department, they all come from Cargill,
Monsanto,
or they come from, companies that are like that, ADM, and they come over, they influence policy, and then they go back to their companies after they have the policies changed.
So, Doc, we are kind of like been discussing about the election of this year, that we're talking about the Dominion voting system. That's 20%. We am seeing reports that 20% of the Dominion system was actually kind of made in China. And now you have that. I'm not sure if you saw the conference this morning. The Trump campaign legal team say that there's 3 foreign countries behind the Dominion voting system. That's Venezuela, that's Cuba, and China. What do you think? Do you think the Chinese regime has any intention, or I'm not sure if you follow the news. Do you think they actually put their hands into our election?
Well, I think you're asking me that question. I happen to be able to. Our connection is on Zoom, so I can see you, and I know you're asking me that question with a straight face. To think that the Chinese and the Russians and the Venezuelans and the Iranians and the Cubans haven't influenced, I think the exception would be that they didn't instead of they did. But they're not only influencing that sort of thing, they're influencing all the other aspects of our lives, especially the Chinese. They're into, think about it for a second. Where's the common sense? We're using a tool that's controlled by the Chinese government. Zoom is a Chinese company that is controlled by the government, because all the companies over there are, and we know what the impact has been on their listening in to our devices, to their ability to hack into our computers and into our email and into our Facebook. So it's folly to think that these people are not doing everything they can, anywhere they can, to disrupt our way of life, because it's to their advantage. They want to be the boss. They want to be on top of it. God knows why they want to be. Look at all the problems people in those positions have, but that's what they want, and it's very obvious what they're doing to meddle in our country across the board. You name it: agriculture, communication, even medicine. They're trying to figure out a way. They've manufactured most of our medicine, as you know. We've gone over there because of our own greed. We've put people into power over there who have manufactured stuff. I spent 3 hours a week or two ago trying to find an electric razor and an alarm clock that wasn't made in China.
Now, Doug, I've told that story. I've told the story about when my wife and I built a house a number of years ago. We got the certificate of occupancy in California in 2006. And shortly after we got that, we put some furniture in the house, and then we wanted to find some stuff for the house, right? And one of the things we looked diligently for was an iron, a clothes iron, made in America or some other place other than China.
Yep.
Not possible.
Right.
It's not possible. They're all made in China.
My razor blade, the razor I found is a Philips machine that's made in Belgium, and the alarm clock was from Germany. It was a Braun alarm clock. So, but I couldn't. If you go, I don't like buying stuff from Amazon, because that's another one of these companies that they'll sell anything, do anything for a buck. So maybe I'm unusual, or I'm not particularly in mainstream thought, but I think that we really need to shake ourselves down to our roots and not kid ourselves with what their intentions are, what they're capable of doing, and what they are, more importantly, what they are doing right now. They're doing as much as they can. And by the way, where's Congress on this? Trump has done a few things to sort of right the ship, or to incentivize things that are made in China, drugs mostly, to come back to America. But I had a communication with my Congresswoman, Catherine Clark, who now is the 4th most powerful woman in the House of Representatives. I asked her what she intended to do to support legislation to bring our industries back to America. Her response to me was a 3-paragraph letter that she wrote herself, basically trying to convince me what a bad guy Trump was, and that whatever my concerns were all his fault. So I shot her back a note, and I said, I didn't ask you to tell me about what you feel with regard to Trump. I asked you to tell me what you, as a congressperson, are going to do to incentivize bringing our companies, manufacturing facilities, back to America. Crickets. No answer to the second email.
Well, see, that's Doug, you've hit it right on the head. That is the problem with what we're having at most levels of our government right now. We don't get response.
You see the impact that look at the what is it? What department is the department that's gone to Hawaii? I think California group. I can't remember who it is.
Yes.
All the lobbyists wanted to take their clients, i.e. the government people, over to Hawaii for a long week of supposedly work. And so that makes me go back around to something I've said on the air for many years. You know how the NASCAR drivers have their jackets that show all of the sponsors on them?
Right.
I think that we should require the members of Congress to wear jackets that have all of the people that have donated to their campaign. And then
I think that's a wonderful idea. That's a wonderful idea.
Doug's been talking about that for years.
Doug?
Hi.
You leave. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Amy. Hi.
You leave. I see your face, everything. Very good. It's an honor to have you on our program. So before you leave, I think you're almost going to go. And I have one more question for you.
Sure.
And you were talking about lots of people falling asleep. They didn't know what's happened to our country, what's happened to our democracy and stuff like that. And so you were on the national radio and you talked to lots of people. So you really think lots of American people, they think because they're very naive, they think because we have such a great system run for hundreds of years and nothing gonna change it. And just 4 years changing another president. The system's still there. But to me, I've been here for 38 years. I realized they're more like lots of things and more like toward the socialism direction. And China I used to live, for 30 years over there, So I have that. So what do you think? You think how we can do to wake them up?
I think the short answer, I'd love to, happy to have you invite me back again. I always have something to say about things like this. But I think the short answer to your question can be seen in the way we reacted in America to the virus and to the various governmental programs that incentivized people not to work. I had to close my farm down this summer because I couldn't get work. I couldn't get workers. The government programs that have been in place, and they've been added to by the situation we find ourselves in, trying to help some people who need help. Unfortunately, a lot of people are abusing the system. As I was just talking about the farm, the grievances against the government when they've given money to fake farmers and fake farms. I think we're getting soft. I think we're getting used to not having to work. Not all of us, but too many of us are having to get used to or seeing people that don't want to work because they don't have to work because we make it easy for them to have enough to live on. And what kind of a system is that? That isn't the system that the country was built on. But that's what's going on now. And I think that you don't think the Chinese government understood that? They understand how we think. So they know when more people get more dependent on the government, that means it costs more money to run the show, and we borrow money from them, and we borrow money from it. It weakens us. And I think that we have become, because of the negative Chinese influence, we have become much weaker than I think we ought to be, frankly.
Doug Stephan is a nationally known talk show host. He has several radio programs and several podcasts. He is a farmer. He is an excellent broadcaster, by the way. If you've missed his program, you've missed a lot over the years. Doug, where can folks find out more about your work?
You can go to DougStephan.com. You can start there. You can go to DJVShow.com. That's the daily program with Jennifer Horn and Victoria Keelan. And then the American Family Farmer that we were talking about, that's at AmericanFamilyFarmerShow.com. We have a podcast and a broadcast there, AmericanFamilyFarmerShow.com. I also do the Talk Radio Countdown show every week with Michael Harrison from Talkers Magazine. And we do because Talkers Magazine does an overview of the hot hits every week in talk radio. So we do that program. That's a 2-hour program that I'm not sure whether it is there or not. At one point or another, I'm sure Michael has carried it.
We do the Michael Harrison rap here.
Yeah, Michael Harrison, excuse me. Rather than Michael Zerling. That's it. Although we're all friends, there's a big difference between Michael Zerling and Michael Harrison.
Indeed.
Anyway,
Sir,
pleasure to be here with you. I'm glad I was able to have the time with you, and I'd be happy to come back anytime you'd like me to.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure.
Take good care.
You too. Bye-bye. That is the great Doug Stephan, and I do say that fondly. I've had the pleasure of meeting him personally, and he is just really a neat guy. He's our inaugural national talk show host. We hope to have many more each week. We'll try to check in with somebody from around the country to be part of our program and get their perspective about China, because it's rather important. Before I forget, I would like to remind folks that you can find out more about China Uber Alice by going to our website, ChinaUberAlice.com, and sign up for our newsletter. That'll put you in touch with a whole lot of information. The China Uber Alice newsletter goes out I think every week, if I'm not mistaken. I know Jonty's working on that diligently for most weeks. I don't know what to say. We have so much stuff going on in this world now. Yep. And I think Doug's right. I think China's got fingers in almost all of it.
Yeah, on everything that we're talking about. Yeah, we are talking about again. Our subject today is the election, the Dominion voting system that the Trump campaign claimed that's made with the influence from 3 foreign countries, that's Venezuela, Cuba, and China. Now, personally, I think all these 3 countries have their interests to the result of a U.S. election, right? They all have that, but I think that China is the only one that's got a kind of like a influence in this country that able to actually have 30 states to install their program. Now, I don't think Cuba, if someone comes to you say he's from Cuba, he's from Venezuela, I don't think he's ever going to be actually penetrate through our local or state level government to have that kind of election system. Think about it, right? It's an election system. That's the most important element of our democracy. I think that's you think about what happened in the last 20 years after China joined WTO, and after we day in and day out trying to make China richer so they can change, they can have a change from within, from inside of China, and they are coming here and they are part of our daily life now. I think China is the only one that actually have that kind of influence.
Well,
lobby.
Start each program.
Yeah.
We start each program every week with a continuing story from Amy. Amy is, for me, when we talk about China's influence, we find out from Amy firsthand what that kind of influence is. I mean, Amy's a perfect example, right?
Yep, I believe so.
I mean, Amy, you've seen this firsthand. You must have, you must be horrified at how things are looking up.
That's right. You're talking about Venezuela and Cuba. I don't think they are in the position, because I visited Cuba last year, April, and visited Venezuela before. That time they are pretty good. And then after that, it's very bad, because the socialism direction. And they are honestly from oil-rich country become poor. They have nothing. And Cuba is still very poor. So,
yeah.
The only country, China. China is the only country, obviously, have a money, have a power, and they really really right now is from this election, from other things. I really know they are really controlling. Just barbarian at the door. So we had to wake up. Otherwise, maybe too late.
Yeah, I think that...
Probably already too late.
I'm more optimistic than that, Amy.
You're talking about agriculture. Doctor just talk about the agriculture. Interesting enough is this globalization. Actually, China, they give up the agriculture. I was being the farm, the Yunnan program for 10 years. So I went back and nobody farming. Even the village I was there, and then nobody, they're not a farmer anymore. So what did they do? They were building some those religious the temple or other villages. So I said, what do you do with all the land? They have a beautiful field in the rice field. They say they just rented it to somebody, some other people, and to run from not even this province and some other city. So to run, but still it's not the agriculture like we have.
Yeah,
not industrialized.
So
they basically, now one thing I can say, it doesn't matter what happens, and we still have a food. But the China is going to be in trouble. 1.4 billion people, they don't have a food because they don't produce anything. That's I try to tell Doc about that. So,
wow.
You don't have to worry about it. And I think that we still have, Canada still have, doesn't matter. We have a high tech or whatever. Coming to down, you still have to eat, right? You cannot eat in virtual.
Yeah, there's a couple of basic things we've all got to do. We've got to be able to have some water, and we've got to be able to have some food, or we're really in...
Yeah, you cannot eat in virtual, right?
Yeah.
Virtual reality.
All right, let's take some phone calls. We have JJ, who's been waiting patiently on the telephone from Hollister. JJ, you're on our program.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Well, this election and all that, have you heard Rudy Giuliani news conference?
Yes, we did.
And I think we just got to, they say they're sending the votes, they can punch in a code into those machines, and it can tilt things over to the other side. And then they say a lot of the votes, they go over to Venezuela or to a foreign place. Then they come back. My opinion is that, gambling, you play the slot machines, there's always somebody that can beat the slot machines. This is a new process through this election. The millions of ballots that were sent out, that they had 4 years in the planning to figure out how to beat the system. And, you go around, you talk to people, and you could talk to them, and then they'll start talking bad about Trump. All you have to ask them is, are you a Democrat? And time and time again, they'll say yes. So, they've been after Trump's tail since day one, with all the collusion with Russia and all these from day one. Yet when Biden and Hunter pulls something off, that's pure corruption. He's in China's pocket, receiving money from getting the payoff from China. That was, that's like China, when you receive money as a bribe or kickback or whatever you call it, they congratulate you for being president. So do all these other countries that Trump put his foot down and says, oh no, we're not doing that. But they says, Biden, he's selling America. And all these are cahoots, CNN, everybody, and I just hope Trump keeps on trucking and keeps fighting and hopefully the Supreme Court or somebody that's not a Democrat can get this stuff straightened out and do what's right. That's all what the American people, the majority of American people knew the bottom line, what is for real. Example that there's a mathematical calculation that says, okay, if Trump is leading by 700,000 votes, you wake up the next day and it's almost tied. That's unheard of to go to sleep and wake up and that many votes to come in all for Biden. That's what should put up red flags right then.
Yeah, JJ, it did.
Thank you.
It put up a bunch of red flags. Listen, thank you for the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for telling what's right.
Yeah, I think that this current investigation about what's behind this Dominion voting system, it's not a partisan thing. I think it's a...
See, that's what I was just about to say. It's not a partisan thing.
It's not a partisan thing.
We want our elections to be fair. That's right. We want it to be accurate and fair, and whoever wins. That's the way it is.
Yeah, think about this. This Georgia that we're talking about. Georgia, both the governor and the Secretary of State, they both Republicans, right? Now the Georgia has the problem. And Georgia has the same problem as the Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So it's a bipartisan thing. And Georgia installed this Dominion system just like less than 2 years ago, and they actually got advice from another state. I forgot which state, maybe Arizona. I forgot the name of the state. Actually, asked them, don't do it because it's going to take a long time to make it fit in to your system, because that Dominion system has so many problems, and they went ahead and do it anyway. Well. And that's why, when you Trump's legal team Sidney Power, and that's what she's talking about. I mean, all this regardless, it's not about if you're a Democrat or you're Republican. They all got a kickback. I mean, you think about Georgia spent like $106 million to install the program, right? So I think that we have a serious problem. So it doesn't really matter if you're a Republican or if you're a Democrat. But if we try to deal with China, we think that working with China is a good thing. I think in the end, we always found that we screw up, because they in their mind, when they approaching us, they try to screw us. That's what happened.
Well, it goes back. Look. We can take this down to the simplest example. And here's the simplest example. China, for years, decades, has stolen our technology. There's just no other way to put it. They have taken our patents. They have used our technology without paying for it. A bunch of stuff like that. They've copied airplane designs. They've copied aircraft carrier and ship designs. They have not paid for the research to get something done. They have just taken it. So what makes any rational person think that they're going to play by the rules when they haven't even played by the rules when it comes to Lego designs? I mean, you could buy fake Legos made in China. You know what I mean? And they didn't pay for that. They didn't. None of that happened. God forbid. We screw up and a missile design gets out. It's frightening.
Yeah, this is what I'm really concerned about. It's not about if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, but why do we knowingly, continuously have China doing all this business with us while we know that they're stealing everything from us?
You know what? I hate to say this. I've said this in a previous program.
Money.
There you go. She beat me.
Kickback in the election case. It's a kickback.
Amy?
I think this investigation need to go to the bottom of it to find out who is getting the money. I mean, not just
follow the money.
Yep.
Who is
getting the money?
Yeah. All right, let's take some phone calls. John in Watsonville has called in. John, you're on KSCO.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm just calling because just my opinion, the point is that you keep saying they steal. Nothing has ever stolen. Nothing has ever, stolen from here. Somebody within the government allowed it to happen. When you have such protected secrets, only so many in the government that are authorized to know those secrets, patents, whatever it is, they allowed it to happen and to be sold and to be taken, not stolen.
You're absolutely right.
And the other thing, too, is that how long ago was it that Senator Feinstein, and it was in the news for like 1 or 2 days, that her chauffeur was a spy for China for 20-some years, and nobody ever found... I mean, the story just died, and it was proven fact. But see, again, come on, for 20-some years, she didn't know. Please, it is allowed to happen. And if you follow the money and you do a little bit of homework, you will find out who allowed it to happen. Those are the treasonous traitors of this government, and they should be held accountable. But that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you for the call. We appreciate that. Let's move on to Jim in Santa Cruz, if I'm reading the screen right. Jim, you're on KSCO.
Hey there. I think your guest really hit the nail on the head that both sides are on the take. There's not a lot of difference between Joe Biden and the corruption that Hunter and all that, that chapter is done, and Donald Trump. They're both on the take. I'm so sick of hearing, and I'm a Republican, okay, but I'm so sick of hearing all these Republicans that think that Donald Trump is their savior and he's going to save us and he's fighting for the good of the people. No, he's not. He's fighting for him. Like, all he cares about is lining his own pockets, and that's what he's doing by being the president, and that's why he wants to be the president again. So I don't think the whole Donald Trump is going to fix everything from the Republicans is a valid point at all, And by the way, and then the other thing I wanted to say is, okay, you talk about Chinese stealing American patents and American technology. Well, does American companies do that to each other? That's capitalism.
That is true.
I mean, that happens all the time. So I don't think it's any different, So I don't know. That's
do you think we need to get to the bottom of this? If there is an election that fraud that's massive, that's caused by the manipulation from foreign countries?
Yes, but let me remind you this, okay? You lead, and anyone with military history knows this. You lead from the top down, okay? We have 50 states, and the Supreme Court has recently ruled, and Brett Kavanaugh was included, that he ruled that states are in charge of their own elections and that the federal government should not interfere with the state elections. There's 50 states, which basically is designed, the whole system is designed so no one is accountable. It's designed so all 50 states do their, quote, own thing, and so you can't lead from the top down. Like Trump or whoever the president is, or Biden or whoever, can't say, hey, all you 50 states, I want you to do it like this, or hey, all you 50 states, we're going to have the same exact voting machines and voting processes in states. And that's why you have some states that have, some machines made by one company and some machines made by another company, and hanging chads and mail-in ballots, and it's like there's no accountability.
And different rules for how they count the ballots and the rest of it.
We are all agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful system that we actually protect the right of states from the federal. But do you think if there is a large scale, what they call the massive
voter fraud.
And then through this Dominion system that need to be investigated. Do you think they need to be?
It does need to be investigated, absolutely. But on the other side of the coin is like we're talking. When you say voter fraud, that's saying there's been a uniform. We can unanimously agree there's been some kind of uniform voter fraud, right? The point is that all 50 states are not uniform. They do things differently, just like you said,
That's right. That's a good part of the system, actually.
Right. The other thing that drives me crazy, and I'm a Republican, okay, I want you to know this, and I voted for Trump just because I think Biden is a horrible choice, okay? But I also want to say this. Like, Trump, you look at his family, look at their names, Ivanka, Melania. Like, he has so much Russian connections and money laundering going on in his family. I don't know if it's all the Republicans I hear on this radio station have short memories and can't remember the Cold War, but just the fact that his family members aren't Jill, Mike, and Larry should be enough to make people's blood boil. And I don't understand how people overlook that. It's crazy. I think Trump is money laundering, and that's what all his constituents are doing. Like Lindsey Graham and all these kind of guys that just give him a pass. Like, what does they have on these people? They're giving him a blind pass all the time. And I think it's like they're all on the take, and it's a giant money laundering operation. That's just my view.
Jim, thanks for the call. We appreciate your time. All right, let's see. Who else? Downtown Al. Al is downtown.
Hey, great show, you guys, as always. We've seen a lot of this doxing where people who are maybe trying to stand up against some sort of injustice and their home address, their name, their children, their wives, their husbands, their family, their house is targeted. I mean, we've seen this, from Tucker Carlson to now even some of these people who were willing to sign affidavits saying that they observed cheating in some of these pivotal states. What do you guys think about that? And then also, I'm always concerned even for your safety because you are sticking your necks out and fighting this giant behemoth, the, communist Chinese government. And, who has a long reach all around the world. We know that they have spies here. They do steal our technology, and in spite of what the previous caller said, even though American companies do a certain amount of stealing, it's at least done according to certain rules. You have a certain amount of recourse, copyrights, patents. You can at least take it up to court, in court to a certain extent. Yeah. Whereas, the Chinese communist government just...
Yeah, how are you going to sue the communist government in China?
You can sue them, right? But thank you for concerning our safety as far as I concern.
This is a question I've never asked Nan or Amy, and, upon reflection, Al, I probably should have. You work for a pretty well-known newspaper that's published in a bunch of languages around. Your work appears all over the world.
Yes, Epoch Times published 35 countries, 21 languages. When the first day it was established, it was trying to establish a channel, uncensored channel, so the information can be in and out of China without censorship. I consider myself a survivor. Many of my friends already died of the persecution by Chinese Communist government. So when your friends...
I think now you mentioned that you were arrested there once.
Well, that was back in 2000. Yes.
Since then, they never
but I was American citizen. They arrested me for a day and then they kicked me out of country.
You're lucky.
So, but anyway, I consider myself a survivor. So I every day that my life goes on, I think that's a responsibility for the people who already die.
Well, I really salute your bravery in this sort of thing because I know you're being watched, and it's no longer just this tiny thing in the that caters to maybe former Chinese citizens or people that are currently Chinese citizens. You've got this world-class publication now that's getting more and more exposure. And again, once again, with this radio program, I'm hoping this will be rebroadcast and has people listening to it online or something like that, to where you'll get a bigger and bigger audience, because I think you're doing very important work. But nonetheless, I am concerned about you guys, and
we appreciate that, Al. Al, I gotta say goodbye to you, because we're just I've got to, as Rush Limbaugh would say, I've got a obscene profit break I've got to take right before we leave here. So we'll be right back on China Uber Alice.
Built upon a solid foundation of cast iron and steel, the Kubota L-Series tractor is the #1 selling compact tractor in the U.S. for over 10 years. Powerful Kubota diesel engine, ease of operation, and your choice of a Kubota gear or HST transmission. The durable Kubota L-Series. C&N Tractors makes it easy to get a Kubota. Schedule a demo. C&N Tractors in Watsonville and Paso Robles.
Give us tough jobs.
I'm Jim Chubb with Pacific Inland. Our NMLS 361091. If you're interested in buying or refinancing, I suggest you take advantage of my reliable expert advice. I'm at 818-7700. I help you make informed mortgage choices with zero selling. See my Sunday column in the Sentinel. We have a 30-year fixed at 3.375 APR with no closing costs. Some restrictions apply. Call me, 818-7700 for individual pricing. That's 818-7700.
Wow, I can't believe we've blown through 2 hours on this program already. ChinaUberAlice.com is our website. Go sign up for our website. Nan, great show today. Amy, thank you so much for everything you've done. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I think we just have to keep doing that, because now we know China is stealing our technology, patents, everything. Now they put their hands on our election, the most important element of democracy.
That's right.
Here in this nation. That's just unthinkable to me. So we just have to keep exposing their crimes.
We appreciate your listening, and we'll see both Nan and Amy here next week. This is KSCO, Santa Cruz, Salinas, Monterey. It's 4 o'clock.